trainers to try on and give a workout. So there's a clue. And here we go. And look what we have here. Wow, max stack or what? So here's a clue in the name. Yeah, Fresh Foam X. So we've got the New Balance Fresh Foam X More V5. It's a nice looking shoe actually, although it does look rather ridiculous in terms of stack height. We can go all through all those in a bit, but I'm more interested to find out what it actually feels like to run in these shoes. So there'll be a review incoming. But yeah, anyway, that's me, Ed from Runnable, and I'll see you later. Bye bye. Hi everyone, it's Ed from Runnable. Here today, almost exactly a week on from the Chicago Marathon. So my legs are feeling pretty trashed, to be honest, still. But I need a kind of shoe that's going to be high cushion, one for that's nice for slow running, that's going to protect my legs at the moment. So actually, as you probably saw in the earlier unveiling, I've got a new shoe that I got recently from sportshoes.com, and it's a shoe that I've wanted to try for a long time now, and they are Fresh Foam More V5 from New Balance. I was a bit worried about this shoe because I tried the More V4 and I ended up selling that shoe after couldn't get on with it at all. I found that the sidewalls were too constraining on my feet, but this is actually, so far, I'll just run down to the park with it. It's quite nice, so I don't feel that at all. I feel like I'm more on top of the platform with this shoe and less constricted. But I will run a bit more with it and let you know my feelings. But yeah, it's good to see you all again. Well, I'm not seeing you, but anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'll do the film shoe review soon, and yeah, and hopefully it's a good one, and it might fit in your rotations. See you later. Bye bye. Okay, so some initial thoughts on the More V5, New Balance's new super max cushion shoe. Nice and cushioned, obviously. Get a nice little spring, nothing too crazy. So those that have run in the Skyward X, you don't get the kind of pop you get off of that shoe. That's similarly, you know, max stack shoe, and you know, if you were looking at shoes to compare this with, I think that would be one. Also, a Hurricane 24 springs to mind, which is a lot flatter feeling than this shoe. I quite like this compared to that shoe actually, in terms of it's got a bit more of a rocker. Skyward X is an interesting one. That's slightly quicker, I think. Feels slightly poppier because it has that carbon plate. For those who don't want to run in a carbon plate all the time, this would be a good alternative, I think. It's a bit more of a predictable bounce with this very thick Fresh Foam. It's got a nice feel to it though. You feel very protected. It's just a bit heavy. I mean, I'm going slightly uphill now. You can't really see on the video, I guess, but it feels a little bit laboured. But saying that, with the rocker, you know, you get that nice flow through your stride as your foot strikes the floor, rocks you forward a little bit. So, you know, it's not terrible by any means going up hills. It's just a bit heavy. Feels a bit heavy. I have to weigh it later, but I'm guessing upwards of 300 grams. this fresh foam that New Balance has got, had it on the Balos as well. It's lovely foam, dense, but springy. It feels like it will be quite durable, feels substantial without being, without feeling too firm. It just feels firmish, but nothing crazy. Not like the FF Turbo does when it's out the box with the Super Blast. There are some similarities. I feel like I need to break this down a bit, like I did that shoe, but it's not quite as firm or as hollow feeling as that shoe, which is good. I'll go downhill now, let's have a feel. I think there's a dog chasing me then. Anyway, going down the hill felt good, as you might expect with this max cushion. It handled that rather well. What I would say is it feels quite stable, this shoe. Perhaps a bit more stable than the Skyward X, because you get less of that upward bounce. The Skyward X has got that concave plate that springs you upwards, and this obviously doesn't, to get more of a kind of predictable bounce. But with the rocker, a nice flow forward. So yeah, feels like a stable shoe. It also has a decent sole flare, so the base is very wide, and also some sidewalls, and I can feel my feet and my ankles are not moving left or right in the shoe. They're staying forward in a straight line. So it's keeping my foot locked in. I'm not getting this lateral medial movements you sometimes get, like I sometimes get in the, say, Prime X. It's noticeable with a high stack. This got high stack, but I'm not feeling that. So New Balance have done a good job designing that. This is a kind of stable, neutral shoe, I guess would be a good way of describing it. For those who need a kind of mild stability, they need slight support for their ankles. Make sure that they don't go too much, whether they overpronate or supinate. This strikes me as a good shoe already. It's difficult to describe a shoe with so much stack as a stability shoe, right? But as max cushion shoes go, this has to be one of the more stable. I think my camera picked up a few birds then. Sorry if it's gone a bit haywire. I'll have to adjust the settings, I think, so it doesn't do that. But I think really nice run. Some good features in this shoe. I'm going to look forward to taking this out for more runs and getting a good feel for the shoe. That's all I want to talk about for now. See you later. So these shoes are definitely, obviously got a lot of stack height, but they're not mushy. The foam's fairly, well, I wouldn't say firm, but it's going to take a lot of breaking in, I think, this foam. A bit of breaking in before I get that springy kind of feeling I'm getting with the Balos. That was more like out the box feeling. I think this foam's slightly different than the More V5. Obviously very cushioned. Feels quite stable given the stack height. I'm guessing sort of 43, 44 millimetre in the heel, that kind of thing. But it does feel kind of stable, which is nice. got a decent rocker, I think, in the around the forefoot area, so you go through nice flow with your stride, which is good. Yeah, I mean, obviously not the quickest shoe. Tell that already. It's not the lightest, but it doesn't feel ridiculous given its size. You can move in this shoe, which is kind of nice. Just not quite as bouncy and as soft as I thought it would be out of the box. I think part of the problem I always had is I'm quite a light runner in terms of weight. Don't know, I'm around 63 kg or something like that, so takes me a while to get this foam properly compressed so I can feel its bounciness. That happened with the Super Blast. It's happened with a few shoes so far. I mean, it's rare that I get a shoe without a plate and they automatically feel very bouncy, springy. It takes a while for me to break down the foam. Once I do, they feel great. This strikes me that this might be quite cool if you're a heavier runner. It's got a wide base, as I say, so it's quite stable, but also if you're putting a lot of force through these, I think that you're going to compress this foam. I feel at the moment I'm kind of sitting on top of this foam, and it's not compressing that much at the moment. But like I said, I had the exact same thing with the Super Blast, and eventually, when it did break, my God, it was amazing. The ballast was a bit more out of the box. It took only like a very short run for that to happen. I really like that foam. Same with Neo Vista. It didn't take long at all. Maybe one run. So anyway, this is my first run in these, so I'm not going to come to any conclusion yet. But I get the feeling these are going to be good and quite springy. Just bring a little bit of a hollow feeling at the moment, like I did with Super Blast. It's giving me those kind of vibes, but it feels very cushioned and protected, that's for sure. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Bye. So you haven't got rid of me yet. I just thought there's a bit of a hill going up to my house, so I thought I'd test these more V5s up the hill, see how they perform. I know they're heavy shoe, but they've got, like I said, they've got a bit of a rocker, so I'm hoping they don't feel too bad going up the hill. And we'll find out. I'm going up it now. I'll let you know how it feels. Yeah, so despite my legs feeling not very good, not too bad, feel the weight a bit, to be expected, not too bad. I think it's a nice rocker, and the foam's pretty good. You know, it's a lot of foam there, but it's not too mushy. Just about right. Maybe even slightly firmer than the Balos, which was kind of very springy and bouncy. Really like that shoe. It's slightly firmer, slightly hollower, although in theory it's the same foam, just more of it. But I haven't broken this down yet, so like I have the past, so we'll see. But yeah, I quite like it. It's not too bad going up hills either, which is good. These big shoes, they don't need to be so big that they can't go up hills, and this one's great. So yeah, that's me done. Successful first run. Rather enjoyed that actually. I mean, given my legs are completely knackered. Here you can see my nice Acer outside the front, or is it Maple? Maple, I think. Yeah, and also Cornish palms. If you like a bit of plant and trees, there you go. You wouldn't have thought you'd get that at the end of this, would you? See you later. Bye bye. Hi everyone, this is Ed from Runnable, and this is my review of the New Balance Fresh Foam More V5. During this review, I'll talk about some of the stats around this shoe, how it felt to run in this shoe, who I think the shoe would be good for, some potential pairing options with this shoe, and also some competitors for this shoe. Okay, so let's dive in. So we've got a 43mm stack height in the heel for my UK 9.5, and a 39mm stack in the forefoot, giving that 4mm drop, so quite a low drop. It feels like a low drop when you're running it, but it does have a kind of nice rock, and we'll go on to talk about that in a minute. I went up half a size, as I always do with New Balance. It's because of the low volume in the shoe. But for those who don't need like higher volume because their feet aren't quite as wide or as big as mine, you may get away with true to size. But personally, I went up half a size, so I went up to 9.5. Okay, let's go through first of all the upper. So you've got this nice material based upper that's actually quite soft, not that scratchy. So it's kind of plush. I would say this is more of a daily trainer type of upper, a bit like you might see in the Super Blast 2, for instance. It's got quite a thick tongue so that when you cinch the laces, you get no bite on your feet, which is quite nice. Again, I would describe it as plush. And then you've got quite a rigid heel counter, as you see here. You can actually feel that a bit on your heel, how rigid it is. It's kind of similar to the Skyward X in that way. I feel it similar in this shoe. The difference is this shoe comes up a lot higher, so this has more of a potential to irritate the Achilles, I think, than this shoe. So I didn't really get much Achilles irritation in this. I just could feel how kind of like solid and firm the back of the heel is in the shoe. You've got nice heel counter, not too padded, but padded enough to give you a good lockdown. I had a really good lockdown in the shoe, no issues there whatsoever. The forefoot is quite wide. You can see the sole flare here, making it look even wider, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But from a volume point of view, you can see you might get a bit of pressure on the top of your toes like I did. If you've got a high volume foot, you may have to consider that. It didn't aggravate me, but I could feel it. So it's one of those where I actually felt the top of my toes, touching the material quite a bit when I ran. But it didn't cause me any issues or irritations. I really do need to take this on a longer run though to check that out, because it's possible that will cause some issues for some people. But all in all, like the upper, like the look of the shoe actually, I like the look and feel of it. Despite this huge wedge here of cushion foam, it kind of carries it well. It doesn't look too ridiculous, although it does look kind of ridiculous, I understand. So upper, like outsole, you've got good rubber coverage. The dark rubber is the grippy kind of solid rubber that they put on the outsole here, and then the light grey is actually the foam, the EVA foam, the fresh foam. I think it will be fairly durable, but you just got to bear that in mind, that this is actual foam and it's not reinforced rubber like you see in these areas. So if you do land on this, with sharp stones or objects like that, it could damage this foam area. I don't think it's going to cause you too many issues, just purely because of the huge stack height here you've got throughout the shoe. But something to bear in mind. The grip I had was fine, completely fine in this. And I would say that in wet weather, there was a bit of wet flooring around, and it was perfect. Didn't have any issues. Not quite Puma grip, but much better than, like, say, the original Super Blast or Neo Vista. You know, it's pretty good, to be honest. And then the midsole. Can't really miss the midsole, can you? It's huge, and you do get a nice cushion, obviously, with this midsole. What I would say is it's not mushy. It's firm enough for this amount of stack to work and be stable. You know, it rises, it looks huge, but you've got these sidewalls here that make it look even bigger. Your foot sinks into that and it kind of locks it into one direction, which is quite nice, really. So there are some, what I would call, I guess, neutral stability features in this shoe. That is one of them. And as I mentioned before, the sole flare, where the midsole of the shoe comes out wider than the upper. You can see that here, and you can see it on the heel as well. That gives you a nice massive base to land on, and it makes the shoe very stable. I would say it's kind of stable neutral, but it's kind of up there with the Saucony Hurricane 24. I felt a similar sort of stability in this shoe than I did in this shoe. So I think if you're looking for a stable, max cushion, comfortable ride, I think this is a very good option. And at a price of £140, I think that's a very decent price for this shoe. I think this Hurricane 24 is around about £160. It's a bit more expensive. The other difference between this shoe is this has got far much more of a pronounced rocker than this shoe. This shoe felt very flat to run in. They've got similar drops, but this one I definitely felt the rocker more. I could move through my foot strike more elegantly in this shoe. It kind of propelled me a bit, gave me more propulsion forward than I felt with the Saucony Hurricane 24. And that despite this having some premium race foaming and this having the fresh foam, which is the EVA foam. So I think I preferred the ride in this, but I think this is another option for those who don't mind that flat feeling when they land. There's another option, and this potentially might have been a touch bouncier than the Amore V5. So I was a bit reticent when I bought this because I tried the previous version of this, the Amore V4. I didn't like it. I felt like the sidewalls were too pronounced, and it felt a bit claustrophobic around my feet. The midsole in that shoe I felt very hollow, and although there was a lot of cushion there, I didn't feel like my foot sank at all into the foam, so it felt very flappy. This, although again it's not firm, but it's not mushy. Again, my foot sits on top of this shoe when I run. I do feel a little bit of give, and I think over time I'll feel more, and it feels kind of nice. But the main difference for me is the rocker and how I'm able to kind of like flow in this shoe. And given that it's quite a heavy shoe, so it's 326 grams. I've just weighed it in my 9.5. Not a light shoe. It's up there with this baby again, the Skyward X, just as a brain freeze for a minute, in terms of weight. So it's a heavy shoe. I took it on some hills and it didn't perform too badly, actually. So I think in terms of running in this shoe, I think it's going to suit those kind of daily runs up to kind of 10 mile where you want cushion, you want this rocker, you want to do it easy, you don't want to be speeding up too much. Something that's going to, you're going to enjoy the run and you're not going to push yourself too hard. This is a great shoe and it will eat up those kind of miles. As soon as you go over that, so let's start to go into 10 miles plus, you may start to feel the weight in this shoe. I haven't done a run like that yet, but I'm imagining that you will start to feel the weight in this shoe. And it hasn't got a plate like this shoe has to give you that extra propulsion to keep going. So that is just something to bear in mind. I would say that this is going to be a great kind of 10 miler or below shoe and eat up loads of your weekly miles, and you're going to do it in comfort and cushioned and in a stable manner, because this is quite, I said stable neutral, I think that's what it is. I mean, it has some good stability features, as I've mentioned. So yeah, I did like running in this shoe, and I think I'll continue to run in this quite often. So pairing options, what would I pair this shoe with? So I would obviously, you know, if you can, you keep it in the same family. So I would pair it, I would have this as my slow, easy run shoe, pair it with Balos, which I would have as more of a tempo, you know, longer run shoe, where I'd go over the 10 mile. It's a little much lighter, about 260. You can feel the difference in the weight, and the foam, I think, although it's fresh foam, feels a bit more bouncy, and you get more propulsion from this shoe. And then for race day, you could use something like the Outsole Elite, New Balance Outsole Elite, which I think is a great shoe. It's been a bit maligned actually, for people who say, you know, it's kind of like the everyday person's like marathon shoe. I think this is actually, you know, better than that. I think you could go quite quickly in this shoe. I think it's got a stable base, it's stable, quite wide. So that's, and it's not the lightest shoe, it's about 250 odd grams. So it gets, you know, it gets people saying that it's not, you know, elite running shoe. I think in the right hands, this shoe is a really good shoe. I like running in it actually. It's not quite up there for me with this yellow. It doesn't have that much of that crazy geometry, but it is kind of nice to land around here and flow through my strides. So, you know, I'm a fan of this shoe. So all three of those, I think, would make great pairing options. In this one, the more 5 for your easy runs, you know, up to 10 miles. This one beyond 10 miles, quicker pace, tempo runs. Excellent shoe. Balos is one of my favourites, as you probably know. And then the Outsole Elite version 4 for your racing. And this, you know, I think maybe not so much 5k, but 10k and above. I think this is a good shoe. So that's my pairing options. Now some competition. I've already mentioned these two. This one, the Hurricane 24. This is a bit bouncier, I think, than this shoe. But I felt it flat and a bit flappy for me, for my liking. You can see there that this has got a more pronounced rocker. This is a flatter outsole here, a flatter midsole, sorry. And you feel that when you're running. So if you quite like that, then you'll like this shoe. It's a very stable shoe, it has some stability features, like sidewalks, like sole flare. As you can see there, I know it's white, you can see again the midsole comes out wider than the upper here. So that's one option. Again, I think it's about £20 more expensive than this. And then another option would be your Skyward X, which again is more expensive, more like 30 to £40 more expensive than this shoe. This has a plate in it though, and so whilst this is also stable because of the wide base, you get this nice bounce because of the plate. So it's a different feeling altogether. So I would say out of the three, if we take the three, I would say that for easy runs, I would probably go New Balance, Skyward X, Hurricane. For stability, probably Hurricane first, New Balance and Skyward X last. For durability, you know, it's hard to know because I haven't run too much in this one yet. But I think all three would be fairly durable. You've got good rubber coverage in all three of them. I'd say just potentially maybe, I get the feeling that this will be the most durable, followed by the Skyward X, followed by the Hurricane. And then in terms of speed, I would say definitely Skyward X with the plate is the quickest shoe, and I would just give it to the more V5 over the Hurricane in terms of speed. Yeah, and that's kind of it really for the review. I think that's a good first kind of analysis of how I find the more V5. And it's a great shoe. Really enjoyed my first run in it. I think this could be a really good rotation element for people who want a slow run, easy day shoe. You know, people who want to do up to 10 miles, I think this is a great shoe. You know, 10 miles, 15, 16K, perfect. Gets a bit heavier after that. And without a plate, you don't really get that assistance that you do with the Skyward X, for instance. So that's all I want to say today. Some run footage after this. Hopefully that's been useful for you. Drop any comments you have in if you want to ask any more questions. I'll obviously do more miles in this, and I'll get back to you how it's done with the durability, whether the foam's compressed a bit. You know, I found it, you know, there was some bounce in this, but not an amazing amount of bounce. I'm not a heavy runner, you know, around 63, 64 kg. So it's possible for you heavier runners, you're going to get more out of this shoe. You're going to compress this huge stack and you're going to get more bounce than I do. But eventually I'll see that as well, like I did with the Super Blast. It took a while for me to get the real benefits from that shoe as well. That's all I want to say today. Watch the run footage next, and yeah, I'll see you later. Bye bye. So I took this out for a run in the morning. I liked it that much. I'm back for a lunchtime run, and people looking at their phones and not watching where they're going. So yeah, I wanted to have a bit more of a run in it. I forgot to mention my legs are a bit knackered from Berlin and Chicago marathons, so that's one of the reasons for wearing this shoe. I need something with a bit of cushion. Allows me to run. You know, it's only been a week since Chicago and 3 weeks since Berlin, so my legs are pretty trashed. But considering that, it's not feeling too bad in this shoe, which is a good sign, right? For those of us with tired legs, this is where this shoe comes in. Imagine during your training, for whatever it is you're training for, you wake up after having done a really long, challenging workout, and you want to go for a run, you want to up the mileage for your week, but your legs feel terrible. This is the shoe you want to put on. This is the shoe that will get you through those awkward days where you need the cushion, you need the support, you need the stability, and you're not going to go too far, 10 miles max. You're not going to worry about the weight. This is that shoe. Recovery days, easy runs, potentially long runs if your legs are feeling okay and you don't mind the weight, but you have to be mindful. The further you go in this shoe, the more that weight is going to come into play, the more tired your legs are going to get, and the lack of a plate is going to make a big difference. You know, like it's not the Skyward X with a plate that will keep you popping forward. Definitely not a tempo shoe either. You can't be doing very quick runs in this, too heavy. You can speed up a bit, it's not terrible, but I wouldn't have thought anything beyond marathon pace is a good idea in this shoe. That's about it really. Lunchtime run. It's always nice to have another run in a shoe and get second thoughts. I'll see you later. Bye bye.